Welcome to Quiet Courage, the podcast for anybody ready to show up and be seen. I'm Keisha, and here we explore self-worth, courage, and personal growth with action steps, personal stories, and encouragement to help you claim your power and live confidently. Remembering your worth isn't something you have to earn. Here, we practice living in it every day. So let's take small, brave steps together and start building the lives we've been dreaming of. Hello and welcome back to the Quiet Courage podcast. I'm Keisha, your host, and today we're going to be talking about overthinking and how it paralyzes your growth, and also how you can shift from overthinking to trusting yourself. If you've ever found yourself paralyzed over a decision, like you go back and forth constantly and debating and trying to think of new angles, and you just feel like you can't pick a side. You don't know which way to move. You're stuck in this in between, and it sucks so much. If you've ever been there, this episode is for you. Last week, we talked about how to stop letting the fear of judgment hold you back. If you're interested in that, go check out episode 8, and let's dive into the content for today. So today we're talking about overthinking and how it paralyzes your growth and how you can start to trust yourself instead of being stuck in this paralysis, okay? Because the truth is, you don't need more time to think. You don't need more information. You don't need a perfect plan, and you're not going to have all information. The longer you think about it doesn't change that you're not going to be able to think of it from every angle and predict what the future holds. So sitting in this place isn't serving you. Overthinking can feel productive. It can feel like you're doing something when you're analyzing things and trying to figure out the best option and what you should do, but what about this, and kind of like throwing all the options around in your head. It can feel productive, but it's actually avoidance. It's actually avoiding making the next step, okay? So it disguises itself as, I just need to think it through a little bit more. I just need to be sure. What if I make the wrong choice, right? I'm sure if you have dealt with overthinking, you have thought that, what if I make the wrong choice? Because that is something that has replayed in my mind over and over again when I get stuck in this overthinking space. But in reality, it's not being productive. It's spinning your wheels. You're carrying this enormous weight on your shoulders of every possible outcome. And if you are stuck deep in this overthinking paralysis, the weight feels palpable. It feels so heavy. And it comes with this deep anxiety in my chest. And I'm sure that if you're resonating with this, you know what I'm talking about. This deep anxiety that comes with this overthinking. Like, you want to make the right choice, but you're just not sure what it is. And that can be so heavy. But here's the thing. You're not confused. You're just overwhelmed by the pressure to make it right. So let me set the scene for you, okay? I don't know if I had just had my baby or it was before I had my baby and I was debating if I was going to stay home or not. But I remember this weight of, am I going to keep working or am I going to stay home and raise this baby, was so heavy on my chest. And it was like months of this weight on my chest of trying to figure out what's the best option. Like, yes, if I keep working, we're going to have more income and that's going to be great for my family. But if I stay home, then I get to raise my baby and I get to spend all these special moments with him. And it just began this continual debate for a very, very long time. And I was stuck in this eternal, I was just stuck there. I wanted to make the right choice. I didn't know what the choice was. And it felt like this constant mental loop. I felt pressure, the anxiety in my chest. I felt fear. I felt like the responsibility of what if I make this wrong? So I was just trying to mentally figure this all out. And I was just trying to analyze the perfect scenario. And if I could think about it enough, if I could figure out what was absolutely best for my family, then I'd make the decision. And then I was in a thrift store, conveniently standing 5-10 feet away from the register, where everybody comes to check out. Yeah, conveniently standing there in front of everybody. And there's this woman I knew, she was an older woman, who came talk to me and hang out and was asking me some questions. And she just happened to ask me the right question. I don't remember exactly what question it was, but it was a question that was about what I was going to do, if I was going to stay home and raise a baby, or if I was going to go back to work. The weight that I had been carrying around, which felt huge on my shoulders, just came crashing out. And there I was, crying. No, not really crying. I was sobbing in public, 5-10 feet away from the cash register, where I remember there's people came to check out, and they just kind of awkwardly walked out, because I'd been holding this weight, and I had been holding in debate for so long. And if the situation felt so heavy, that decision felt so heavy, that it was like all this water was built up behind this dam. And when that right question was answered, whoosh, it all came out. And the truth was that if I had listened to my gut, if I got quiet and listened, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the answer, but I didn't trust myself enough to know that I'd figure it out along the way. After that conversation, and after the huge wall of emotion that came out, I was like, okay, I'm making a decision. And I made the decision, even though I didn't have everything figured out. I made the decision, even though I couldn't predict exactly what that would look like. And I can tell you this, the second that I made that decision, it was the exact moment that I made that decision, all of the weight lifted. And it was the craziest thing to me, because I had been carrying this huge emotional weight for so long. It was I expected a process that I was going to have to walk through to get to the other side. But it was this moment that I made that decision that this huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And I've actually had this conversation about this with other women who are stuck in indecision. And I've told them, the moment you make that decision, I promise you, the emotional weight will lift. And they have come back and told me oh my gosh, Keisha, yeah, that's true. When I made the decision, the weight of this anxiety just left. A tool that I use when I feel overly anxious is peace and calming. It is essential oil. Y'all, you're going to learn as you listen to this podcast that I love natural health. Okay. That's another one of my things that I could talk all day about. But I didn't want to jump on some anxiety pill or things like that. I knew that if I just could solve this problem, I'll feel better. Right. And so I just put peace and calming on my wrist. I wore it on my bracelets, on a necklace. I put on my backbone, because that's the way you can access all of your body, because your nerve endings are there too. And I put it on the bottom of my feet. I use that as a big support. If that's something that you want to use, I'll link in the show notes too. Just another tool to help you out as you are navigating this anxiety. But I promise you, once you make that decision, it will get a heck of a lot better. So jumping back to my story, I had decided that I was going to stay home with my baby for a while. And the moment I decided, I didn't even call my boss yet and tell her. I didn't make any of those moves. The whole thing all that weight just lifted. What I'd like to tell you, if you're stuck in this anxiety and this overthinking paralysis, is not helping your growth, right? And you know that, right? But the clarity that you're looking for me, it didn't come before the decision was made. It came after. I was waiting for all the mess in my head to clear and then feel good. And then oh yeah, this is the right path I'm supposed to go on. But that's not the way it rolled. So it was there was chaos, and I was stuck in this debate until I made the decision. And then all of that extra emotional weight just cleared. So if you're waiting for the clarity to come, it comes after the decision. The breakthrough is that the pain wasn't from the decision. The pain was from avoiding the decision. This pain that you're feeling right now when you're stuck in overanalysis and you're paralyzed and you want to go and do big things, but you don't know which path to take, that pain is because you're avoiding the decision. Here's the thing. Sometimes, I want to say often, we know the decision that we want to make. We know the best choice for ourselves, but we may not trust ourselves, right? So for instance, the decision that I wanted to make, I wanted to stay home with my kid. But then I was worried about, okay, what is my husband going to think? Also, what is my boss going to think? Here's the thing. You're not supposed to know how everything works out. And in my brain, I'm always wanting to know, like, what's the exact right decision? Because I want to make the right choice for my family, for my life, for the trajectory of my life, for my career, all the things. And you may be feeling this too. You're like, I just want to know the exact thing that I should do. You're not going to know the exact thing. You're not going to know exactly how everything is going to work out. But if you're waiting for certainty in knowing how everything's going to work out, you're waiting to know exactly the right decision, like without one doubt about it, you're going to be stuck there. You're going to be stuck there for a long time. You don't need to wait till you know and you feel 100% certain on everything. Okay, that's just avoiding the decision, and the weight of that is too heavy. It's too heavy for me to hold. It's too heavy for you to hold. The reality is that things change, life changes, circumstances changes, new information comes, and even unexpected opportunities appear. You can't predict the best path, but what you can do is you can choose the best option for you, the part that you feel most aligned with. And I feel like knowing who you are and what you value is very key to knowing what you align with. For me, I very much value my faith and I value my kids and my family. And if there's one thing that I can do in this world, I want to speak into them and I want to help them to be the most competent and amazing version of themselves that they can be. And I want them to know that their worth isn't dependent on anything that this world has to offer. We are all created by God with our worth. Like, we are reflections of Him. So I want my kids to know that. And so where I am, when I check back into like where I stand, it very much helps me to make the next decision. Okay. And that's for like my faith and my family, but also for my career. I know that I'm an encourager. That's who I am. That's what I love doing, is I love encouraging people. So that's how I've kind of made this new pivot in my life, is going back to my values. What do I value? I strongly value encouraging other people. And so if you can take a moment to pause and kind of think about what your values are, what do you value? What are the things that when you're 90, you're going to look back at your life and you're going to be like, man, I'm so happy I did that. Those are your values. And so once you kind of know where you stand with your values, then it makes it a little bit easier to step out into those decisions and make a decision that's best aligned for your life. And even if it feels a little bit chaotic, you can go back to your values and be like, okay, what do I value? All right. And now I'm going to go with the decision that most aligns with what I value for my life. Here's a great thing that I learned is probably like the past 2-3 years that has helped transform the way that I think about these new decisions, is once you get new information, you can make a new choice. Okay. So if you are stuck in analysis and paralyzed about, I got to make the right decision, and how this is this is preventing your growth as a human in your career, in your family, like all the things, and you don't know what to do, you have permission to make a new choice. What that means is you have permission to go down the road, let's say it's a road that you believe is best for you right now. And if you learn new information, right? Because you're going to be going down that road, you're going to be experiencing new things, interacting with new people. And if you start walking down that road and you're like, oh man, this actually is not for me. This is not for me. You have permission to change your mind. I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in this paralysis, is because they feel like they're deciding for the rest of their life. No, you are deciding for the next step in your life. And as soon as you get new information, you have permission to change your mind. You have permission to pivot. You have permission to go with what aligns best for you. And an identity statement that can be beneficial for you if you're looking for something like, how do you root this into your life? You can say, I am someone who makes decisions and I trust myself to figure it out, right? So you're making that decision, you're stepping out of this paralysis state. And trusting yourself to figure it out is trusting yourself that once you acquire new information, you can then make a new decision. You don't have to stick with the decision you made 5 months ago, 6 months ago, whenever it was. I think trusting yourself is also looking at your values, because we're all different. We all value different things, right? And so looking at your values, where you stand, and making a decision based off of your values. Because if you make a decision based off your values, I can promise you it's going to be a lot easier to trust the next steps that you're going to make, because then you're not acting as somebody else. You're showing up in this world as who you were created to be, which takes a whole lot of pressure off of yourself. The practical steps here is you don't need to know everything. You don't need the full map. You only need to decide to take the next step. And so you have to go from a decision, take that action on your decision, and then you get feedback, right? You get feedback and then you make an adjustment. So this is actually how the clarity is built in your life. It's not this clarity that we're looking for when we're stuck in paralysis. It's not built in that pre-decision time, as I was tempted to think it was. And maybe you've been tempted before to think that maybe if I just think about this long enough, then I'll have the clarity and I'll figure it out. The clarity is actually built after the decision. Okay, so you make the decision, you get feedback. Say you decide to go to school, you jump into some classes and you're like, oh, I love this, or oh, I hate this. Either way, it's feedback, okay? And then you make the next adjustment, or you continue, or you do whatever you need to do. But that's like the path towards clarity in your life. To recap, if we could just let go of that pressure of having to figure it all out and having to have it all perfect the first time, man, that would benefit you. I know it would benefit me. That I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to know it all. All I need to do is take the next step. Even when I say that, the pressure it just feels lighter. All I need to do is take the next step, right? You don't need to analyze how your entire life trajectory is going to go if you misstep. Just take the next step. Look around, get some feedback, and analyze. Do I need to pivot? Do I need to keep going? That's all we're doing here. Okay. So if you feel stuck right now, it may be because you're afraid to trust yourself. And trusting yourself is just aligning with those values and making the next step and knowing that you can adjust and pivot along the way. Okay. So your next step is make that choice. If you've been listening and you know that you have something that you've been in paralysis, like decision paralysis about, just make the choice. I can tell you, as a person who has walked through paralysis analysis so many times, that it's not worth going months without making this decision. I see you, I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. Thanks for listening into this episode. Next week, we're going to talk about how to speak up when you're the quiet one without changing who you are. I'm so excited to jump in next week with you, so come on back for another conversation. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Quiet Courage. Remember, courage is the first step to confidence, and together we practice showing up, taking brave steps, and building that confidence every day. If this episode encouraged you, I'd be so thankful if you'd share with a friend. Keep taking those small steps, and I'll see you on the next episode.